Hey, welcome back to Tech Tip Tuesday. Today I'm going to be talking about some tips to make your pattern testing process go a little bit more smoothly. Now, spoiler alert, we're not going to be getting into this whole debate about whether or not you should pay your testers. I have my own opinions about that, but it tends to be a fairly controversial topic, so I'm not going to be talking about today. That's a different episode. But whether or not you pay your testers, some of these tips are still really helpful to try and make that process go a little bit smoother. Oftentimes, what I hear from designers is that pattern testing is often the most stressful part of the pattern writing process and being a pattern designer, so hopefully these tips will help make things go a little bit smoother. So before we get into it, first things first, let's talk about what the heck pattern testing is and also what it's not. So what it is really another way to promote your pattern and kind of get that buzz going to let everyone know that it's available so that they can go and purchase it. It's also a really great source of inspiration, right? You get multiple people making multiple different versions of your pattern, and that way people who might be interested in purchasing the pattern can see themselves in a bunch of different versions and get some inspiration for it. So it's a really great opportunity for that as well. What it's not, and this is really important, is it's not tech editing. A lot of people try to use it that way, right? They'll send it out to a whole bunch of people and they're like, my testers will find all the errors. They're going to fix everything. And I just won't use a tech editor. If you are banking on your testers being able to catch all of the typos and check all of your math, you are going to be very disappointed because by and large, pattern testers are individuals who are just kind of doing this for fun, right? They're quilters, they're mostly hobbyists, and they just kind of help out when they can. There's not too many people making a career of it, even if they are getting paid for it. And what that means is that these people are not professionals, right? They're not trained to look at your pattern and assess all of the areas where there might be confusion or there might be opportunities for improving the clarity and organization. They don't have that trained eye, and frequently they're not going through your pattern with as fine-tooth a comb as a tech editor would. So if you're relying on your testers to kind of tech edit everything and do anything more than just some really basic proofing, you're going to be very disappointed because there's going to be a lot of mistakes that they just don't catch, versus a tech editor is trained to do that. They're a professional. They've got a very fine-tuned eye, and they're going to go through your pattern with a very fine-tooth comb and be able to catch all of those little details that will take your pattern from just good to really great. So keep that in mind as we're kind of talking through these tips. Okay, so let's get into it. The first tip that I have for you is to put a draft watermark over your pattern. This is a pre-publication document, one that you're planning to sell, and if you kind of send it out into the interwebs, into the universe, there is a possibility, rare, but there is a possibility that it may end up getting outside of your tester pool, right? Somebody shows it to their friend, they don't think anything of it, and pretty soon it's out there on the interweb, and this thing that you would be charging for, people can now get for free. Now, again, there's not really a good airtight way to prevent this from happening, but slapping a draft watermark across your pattern, making it embedded on the page, is something that you can do really easily that very clearly and visually indicates that this is a pre-publication document. It's not a complete document, it's a draft, and it kind of prevents and deters some of that sharing. And putting a draft watermark is super easy in most quilt pattern writing softwares. If you're using InDesign or Affinity Publisher, any of those softwares, it's really, really easy to do. You just put this on kind of the template pages or the parent pages, and it's going to put it on every single page in your pattern, and you can go in and remove it about 2 seconds later when you're ready to actually publish the thing. The second tip that I have for you is to make sure that you have really, really clear expectations for your testers. Clarity is kindness. And the more clear that you can communicate your expectations of them, the less likely you are to be disappointed or they are to have a bad experience because they're being required to do something they weren't aware of when they signed up for testing. So for instance, are they able to kind of modify the fabric layout a little bit to kind of suit their needs? Can they use 3 fabrics instead of 4 fabrics or something like that? Are they allowed to do pre-cuts versus the yardage that the pattern originally specified? Is that okay? Do you require that they share kind of progress shots at a particular interval throughout the testing process? Some designers will want to see the fabric pool and have them post about that on Instagram to kind of generate buzz, and then maybe a progress shot, photo of some finished blocks, and then the final quilt top or something along those lines. Are you expecting them to have a completely finished quilted and bound quilt at the end, or is a flimsy okay? These kinds of questions, just making sure that you're really clear about what is expected of them makes the process just go way smoother. And it can feel kind of weird to kind of list all of these things out at the very beginning for this person that kind of feels like you're asking them a favor, especially if you're not paying them, right? But I promise you it will be a better experience for everyone if you're just very upfront without what the expectations are. Now, this is the only place that I'm going to kind of get into this paying versus not paying thing, not about which you should do, but my personal opinion is that the expectations kind of need to be different. I have seen some designers that will literally make their testers sign a contract. If you're going to do that, my personal opinion is that you probably need to be paying them. The second a contract comes in place, it becomes kind of a business transaction, and there needs to be some sort of compensation for that, right? You can't just expect complete volunteers to sign a contract and agree to this big long list of stringent things when you're not even paying them. You need to be a little bit more accepting of whatever they choose to do, and that means giving some flexibility on fabric options, pre-cut options, things along those lines. If they want to take your pattern and kind of tweak it a little bit to kind of fit their style, you're going to have to learn to be okay with that because, again, they're volunteering their time and their fabric, which costs a lot of money, right? So you just don't have that much of a claim to those things. You need to be a little bit more reasonable with your expectations if you're not paying your testers. This next one, I cannot emphasize just how important this is, and that is to make sure that your testers actually like the pattern. Frequently, people will get so excited to just be asked to pattern test because it feels like this important job. And also they get promoted on social media, things like that, that they'll say yes to patterns that they are not necessarily in love with. And, it's great that they're willing to help. But at the end of the day, you as a designer, you want your testers to really love the pattern because when you love something, you're going to put your best fabrics in it. You're going to be really excited about what you're making, and that's going to translate through to the final design, right? Other people are going to appreciate it more because they can see how much you cared about it when you were making it. So if your pattern testers don't like the pattern, that's going to show, and it's going to kind of be detrimental to your promotional efforts because you kind of end up with these tester makes that are a little bit lackluster. So making sure that your testers really actually like the pattern, that's the first thing I ask when I'm trying to assemble a testing group. And it is really, really important because you will just end up with such a better result, right? The promotion will go better because it'll be more genuine as they're promoting your pattern for you. This next tip kind of goes along with point 2, and that is to make sure that you communicate the dates very, very clearly, right? Typically, you're going to give about a month to complete the pattern test. That's about the right timing. Too long and people feel like they've got all the time in the world, they're not going to get started. And then you run the risk of them just kind of forgetting about it until it's a week or two away from the deadline and they just don't have time to make it anymore. So that's frequently where you'll end up with a group of testers where you think you have 5 and then the closer it gets to the date, they start dropping like flies and you're like, hang on, I forgot about this. I don't have time to make it anymore. Sorry, I can't test for you. Oops, right. So if you give people too much time, they tend to procrastinate. Now, the flip side of that is that if you don't give them enough time, obviously they're not going to have time to complete it either. Quilts take a while to make. It's a process, right? These are not quick projects. You're going to spend generally at least 6 hours on a quilt, sometimes 20 or 30 when it's all said and done. So making sure that you actually give enough time for people to kind of fit this in with their daily lives and get it done is also important. So what I have found is that 4 to 6 week mark is kind of the sweet spot for this. Any longer and you kind of get into that procrastination territory, well, people will just start forgetting about it, which is not what you want. So at the beginning, you need to communicate the dates and deadlines surrounding everything, right? If you need progress pictures, you need to communicate those dates as well, but certainly the date by which you need the pattern completed, any feedback back, and then the kind of final tester make pictures that you're going to use to promote your pattern launch. Now, along with that, you also want to send reminders of those dates. So you're going to communicate it at the beginning, but you need to also send periodic reminders about those dates to keep people honest so that nobody forgets, right? Everybody's busy. They've got a lot on their plate. A lot of people are doing this as a hobby and things just get away from them, right? So what you don't want to do is send them an email 3 days before it's due and be like, hey, remember, I need all of this information in 3 days, right? Send some progress emails, right? Send it at the halfway mark, at the, 1 week beforehand mark, at the 2 or 3 day mark right before it's due. And then of course the day before you need it for anyone that still hasn't submitted yet. This helps keep the test and what they've agreed to kind of at the front of their minds so that you don't end up in that situation like we were talking about earlier, where somebody agrees to test and then they forget about it because they think they have all the time in the world. The last one is really important, and this is a hill that I will die on, and that is that you need to promote all of your tester makes equally. Whether you've paying your testers or they're just volunteers, someone has taken a lot of time and put a lot of effort into making your pattern to help you promote the design. So frequently you're going to get, 3 to 5 people testing your pattern, and maybe one person's got a style that's a little bit different to yours. You don't necessarily love that version of it. It just doesn't look as great as the other, 3 or 4 or whatever. And so the tendency is to just want to kind of like not promote that one as much, not call as much attention to it. That's not right. Somebody has spent a lot of time and a lot of effort into making your design so that they can help you promote your pattern. Whether or not you're paying them, that's still a lot of manual effort, right? Quilting is a very manual process. They sit there and they put hours into cutting all the fabric by hand, piecing it, and then quilting this thing up and taking pictures and all of that hard work that they've put into it. So whether or not you absolutely love it, you still need to show your appreciation and promote all makes equally. Don't like show favoritism towards one over another. So there's that piece of it, right? Just the principle of it. But the other piece of this is that not every single person out there has the same taste as you. And sometimes it takes a person seeing your design in their style that makes them fall in love with the pattern, right? So if you just show your cover quilt or ones that you absolutely love, it might actually not speak to them, right? They might see it and be like, yeah, I don't really like that, like not interested in buying that quilt. And then they see it in a different style, one that's not yours, right? And they go, holy crap, I need to make that. That quilt's amazing, right? So having a bunch of different examples of what your design looks like in different styles, different colorways, different fabric choices can actually be really beneficial towards making your design speak to more people, right? It can actually make your pattern more popular because they can see what it looks like in different styles. So that's the other kind of beneficial reason for promoting all tester makes equally. Please don't pick and choose. It's just rude for people that have invested a lot of time in trying to help you, but it can also hurt kind of the popularity of the design because you're not attracting different people with a different style to yours. Alrighty, those are all the tips that I have for you today. If you found this video helpful, make sure you like and subscribe, and I will see you next time for Tech Tip Tuesday. See ya!